There's special people that come along every now and then they can pull the trigger, and I'm just telling you, Philip Morris is one of them.
Philip Morris is poised to become the first driver to reach 100 wins, adding another accomplishment.
What Philip has done is phenomenal when you consider the talent that we have seen at this racetrack, dating back to the advent of the NASCAR sanctioned era in 1988. He will have beat some of the best late model drivers of all time to do it. That's what makes this record so phenomenal.
I want to get to the big news. He did it. Philip Morris got
a special one for one of the track's drivers.
Yeah, it's one in those history books. Jermaine, Philip Morris, history-making win in the 75-lap O'Reilly Auto Parts late model race.
What does the word legacy mean to you, and what's yours?
It means something that you can leave behind that others can follow or they can look on to help themselves, you know, give other people encouragement that it can be done.
Philip Morris is one of the most decorated NASCAR Whelen All-American Series racers of all time. His peerless resume includes 4 national championships, 4 Virginia state titles, and 9 late model track championships. He's amassed more than 160 NASCAR late model feature wins, including the prestigious Martinsville Speedway Late Model 300. At the crest of a celebrated career, Morris entered Motor Mile Speedway's 2017 season eyeing another major milestone. History was made in the division's 4th contest of the year, the Ethos Technologies Twin 75s.
White flag is out. It is going to happen. What a moment for Morris. Philip Morris out of 4 will make history, racing into the record books with win 100.
On June 17th, at age 52, Morris became the first driver to win 100 NASCAR-sanctioned late model races at Motor Mile Speedway. According to Morris, achieving the unprecedented feat ranks foremost among his racing accomplishments.
This is number 1 for me. I mean, if you can't tell, this is the most excited I've been, and I won a national championship in '06 back here at Motor Mile, and it didn't feel this great.
On April 26th, Morris participated in a rare one-on-one interview with Motor Mile Speedway's J.W. Martin. The majority of that conversation follows.
In your estimation here, who's the best all time? What's your yardstick? Who's the best, and where do you fall?
I go by what each driver can do. Johnny Rumley, who can dive in the corner deeper than he can, and why can't I do it? Ronnie Thomas, who can be that consistent every lap? I mean, just putting down the same lap, not giving up a little bit. So why can't I do that? And Tink Reedy, I mean, just so tough behind the wheel, not intimidated, not going to be pushed around. So why can't I be like him? You know, it's just every driver. I can't say who is the best that I've been up against because every one of them brought something to the table that I wanted to put into my corner. And that's what I think that's helped us the most, is just being able to see where the strong points are. And even today, I mean, you look at the guys that are racing here at Motor Mile today, some of the best it's ever been. And determination. Those guys are young and determined and strong, and why can't I do that? So that's what I do. I think that to be a champion and to win 100 races, I think you gotta bring it all. You gotta bring everything every week, and that means everybody that you followed and everybody you learned something from, you better put it to good use.
So take me back to the beginning. July 22nd, 1995 was your first win. What stands out about that day, that race? Do you remember it?
I can't remember every race, but I know that every one of them was so close. I mean, it just seemed like there was somebody on our heels. I remember coming here for the first time, I think it was maybe in '94, and I think Johnny Rumley won the race. And those are the ones that stand out to me, are the ones that we lost and the ones that we needed to make improvements on. And that particular race, it was the big one here. That was he was in the Taco Bell car, and I can remember I started way back here in the back somewhere in the the cheap seats, and I said right then, I was like, you know, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right, and I'm going to give it my all, and we're not going to start way back here anymore. We're going to work hard, and that's what we did. We started working hard right there, and like you said, that first win, that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in racing, and we had already won championships on dirt. So to come out and do something like that back then was way beyond my imagination.
Of the heavyweights in the field, the day of your first win, Agnew placed second. Ronnie Thomas was eyeing his 5th consecutive win, but crashed out. The Southwest Times described your win as, quote, a relatively easy win. I cannot imagine it felt easy to you. Do you remember it that way? And in general, these races can't be easy to win. Never have.
None of them. Never. I don't ever remember one that I could just, you know, throw my arm up on the door and drive one-handed around. I mean, it's not the way it is here at Motor Mile. You're up on the wheel qualifying every lap, and you know, for somebody to quote that as saying the easy, I mean, you don't win easy over Jeff Agnew. He's the Iron Man here at Motor Mile, and learned a lot from that guy. I mean, it's so consistent and strong. And Ronnie Thomas, everybody knows Ronnie and how good he was. He went all the way up to the Cup level. You know, when you have those guys in the race, you don't win easy here. I mean, I bet you my heart rate was way past 200, and I bet you I had to peel my fingers off the steering wheel after that race.
Statistically, 1997 appears to be the breakout year. 6 wins, your first track championship. Did that have any effect on the trajectory of your career moving forward? Was that kind of the tipping point?
I think so. I think that success early was what made or encouraged us to make that the next investment. You know, the investment into going long term and to going for national championships and believing that we could compete on that level.
The streak begins in 2005. 5 straight track championships, 50 wins, 3 national titles, all of it record-setting here. How did it happen?
Pretty much dropping everything else in my life and having a family that supported me and my wife. She was a trooper through all this, and she'll tell you that, you know, it was hard for her because I basically was gone and I worked racing every day. I mean, I went to the shop every morning, worked on these cars, and I treated the late model that I drove out here just like it was a cup car, and every day hands-on, and practiced as much as I could and tried everything I could try, because there's infinite number of things you can do. But I think it was just the focus, you know, the amount of time that we focused on exactly every little minute thing.
Prior to last season, you had tallied 2 wins and 9 starts, but then came 3 victories last year. And what has it been like returning to form, so to speak, and how gratifying were those 3 wins here last year?
Can't describe what it was like other than to tell you that, I mean, we laid out for about 3 years, and that had to do with my business and just trying to bring it back after, you know, the economy tanked there for a while. And I approached my business like I do racing. I wanted to be competitive, and for it to be competitive, I had to bow out for a couple of years there. So coming back was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, with Lee dominating here, and he wasn't taking anything for granted. I mean, he was working hard, and you can see how that's played out in his career. Very good driver. And so it was tremendous. Almost I'd say it was probably harder than when I first started out, because you know, my age has made a difference in my ability to you know, maybe overdrive my car and get away with it. And that's, I think the realization of that has really driven me to actually bring me back to where I was before. Let's do what I got to do. And so I've gotten in the gym and I've worked hard. You know, if I feel like that I'm giving it up in the seat, then I want to put somebody else in there now that can win for my team. But until that, you know, as long as we keep, you know, three wins here last year, I feel like we're doing what we have to do to stay strapped in.
Talk to me about some memorable wins. First, before I start on the 3 questions I have, do you have a most cherished win here?
Everyone was most cherished. You know, keep in mind, I've hit the wall hard here a couple times, so I can't remember all of them. But, you know, I remember when, you know, it hasn't been that long ago when we got on some win streaks and we started having drivers come in from other tracks. That was awesome, you know, because it also, you know, it worried me a little bit because I felt like Motor Mile was the best track in the late model series. I mean, because I'd been to most of them and I was pretty sure that being here was the right place to be. So when you have drivers gunning for you and they show up here, then that challenges your thinking. And when we were able to win those races, and those guys, some of them did finish second, which is pretty awesome, those wins were always the best.
The Frank Deiny drag race. You called it the defining moment of the 2009 season. Do you have memories of that one?
Oh yeah, and if anybody knows Frank, like I say, I've raced with some of the greats, and Frank's one of them because that guy can wheel a race car. I mean, he drives a car really tight, and so when you drive a car tight, it's hard to pass because that guy's in the bottom and he's planted and you can't move him, and if you do, he gets really mad. And so that year was a tough year for Frank and I's friendship, but Frank's a level-headed person, and I think at the end of that season, I think we still maintained a friendship, but it was strained quite a bit.
Ending a 4-year drought by an historic Motor Mile Speedway era, 12.74 seconds. Where does that one rank? That was
way up there because, like you said, drought. Sometimes you got to get really low before things get better, and it was a low spot, and that couldn't have been a better time for us to win a race. And I think maybe I overdid it that night because everybody talked about the margin of victory, but it was because I just didn't look back, and I didn't probably use good judgment on that point because the late model guys, they usually try to save something in case there's a great white checker. But that night I just hung it out there, and yeah, it was something that picked me back up and made me realize that we do have what it takes. And now, since we determined that, let's go ahead and let's work towards it.
Walk me through your post-race victory lane celebration routine. You take the checkered flag. What's going through your mind? How do you go about the celebration, the ceremonies, and all of that? Do you have one?
Yeah, I think everybody does. I think the first thing you do, you think about, did I jack somebody, or did I move somebody, or is somebody going to try to, is Tink Reedy going to pull me out of the car, or is Six-Pack Cundiff going to pound me down in my car? So yeah, you think about these things of where you need to go, but you would think after 90 couple wins you would have a routine that was just automatic, but it's different every time. It's sometimes if it's a really hard fought win, you'll do a burnout and you'll melt them down, and if you see me do that, you'll know it was pretty special.
Last one, I wanted to read you something you told me in '09. A lot of guys will dwell on the numbers and the wins. I try not to focus on that. I try not to focus on the accomplishments so much. I figure at some point we'll be able to rear back and say, we won this many or we won that many. We hit the 100 mark this year. Has that time arrived?
I've worked too hard to say that 2 wins is going to be enough, but I can tell you that would be huge. Like I say, I couldn't ever put that number up there, but I think it's biblical to not count until you're done. But in the back of my mind somewhere I know, and I'm not really willing or ready for that yet. I think there's a lot of racing left. I got some good guys working on my car now. I got some good equipment. It's people that believe in me. I got a good racetrack I can come to, and as long as we have those combined and I can still be competitive here and still finish in front of that 5 car every once in a while, I think that we're going to try, we're going to keep on trying.
So then there's no end in sight?
Not yet. I can't really put my finger on that just yet.